Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I'm CakeDive, and I hope you guys are doing great. I originally was gonna do an episode on that Kendrick and Drake beef, but they dropped two songs yesterday. I need a little bit of time to breathe those in and give you my thoughts on that. So I might give you an episode on that next week. And I I also had to record this episode late because I've been busy as per usual on these Saturdays. But I want to step in and talk about Dua Lipa's new album, Radical Optimism. She dropped it this weekend. I've listened to it. I have my thoughts. So we're going to review it. We're going to talk about how everybody else is feeling about it, my thoughts, and give you guys a track by track ranking upon my quote unquote first impressions. And I say quote unquote because I've listened to the album about 4 or 5 times now. Because I wanted to give you guys a full fledged review, and I don't want to do. I I say first impressions because I also feel like the album's growing on me a little bit. Um, so I'm not opposed to revisiting the album at some point and giving thoughts later down the line on how the album was. But the album drop, no, everybody seems to not be gagged by it. Everybody's saying that it is boring. I hear a lot of people say it's boring, and numbers are reflecting that. I'm not a charts girly, but they talking on Twitter about how the album hit like 15 million streams on Spotify its first day, which everyone's saying is flop behavior. They're saying that Dua Lipa's in her flop era, and I'm excited to delve into why. I guess for me, let's talk about the album first of all, because we can't talk about why the album's not doing well in the eyes of the people without talking about the album. For me, I like the album. If I had to rate it, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Upon first impressions, I was gonna give it like a 6.5. Um, but I think the album is very consistent. There are some pretty good songs on there, but what makes it a 7 instead of a 10 is that one, it definitely lags behind future nostalgia. It definitely feels a little bit regressive in its sound. Um, and what I mean by that is that the songs on the album, I did say the songs sound consistent, but some points that feels like a bad thing because my issue with a lot of the songs here is that a lot of the songs are too short. The album is too short. It's 35 minutes long, give or take 35 minutes long. And the songs lack depth. Well, okay. They do have depth, but some of the songs lack some of the gravitas, some of the like theatrics that people come to expect with Dua's music, especially during the future nostalgia era, and even during like the, I guess some of the pre Radical Optimism singles, such as like Dance the Night with the Barbie movie. The songs to me like remind me a lot of Dance Tonight, but it seems very muted. Like it seems very reserved and I hate to say it, but lower quality. And I am just like everybody else is. I'm very confused as to why this is like this, because you have some and I'm confused because let's dig into. I'm gonna dig into the singles first, and then we'll talk about the rest of the album, and then I'll give you guys the ranking and then kind of thoughts on how this album's performing. Um, the singles we had Houdini, we had Training Season, and we had Illusion. Houdini was the first single. I liked Houdini. The song is cute. The song was fun. But that music, well, okay, I think a lot of people had the complaints about the music videos for Houdini and Training Season. They said that weren't sure what the vision for the album was, and a lot of people are thinking that the album's narrative shifted between singles or between the development of the album, and I definitely can see that. But for me, I with Houdini, I didn't like the music video because it felt very cheap. For a Dua Lipa and for a lead single, it felt very cheap. It felt like it seemed like they were just like, okay, all you can really do is record in a little dance studio, and it felt kind of just like a higher produced not performance but like dance practice session for the music video. And I guess that there seemed to be a consistent thing throughout the songs that like dance was very central to the music videos across Houdini and Training Season. Well, Training Season did not have dance in the center of it, but like Houdini and Illusion both did. They did have dance kind of, or like dancers in a big way appear in the music videos. And it seemed like they kind of wanted these to be like dance hits. And I am not sure if that translates with the songs. But I thought Houdini was a good track. And I think it was I thought it was a fun track overall. But yeah, I thought it was a fun track. It's out of the singles that we got so far, it's my second favorite single from Dua in this album cycle. And then we have Training Season. Training Season as a single is fine. And when I mean fine, it's like overall in the grand scheme of the album. And mind you, I did like the song more on the album when I listened to the album as full compared to when I listened to the single. But it doesn't really like excite when we got to Training Season. Then I started seeing like some of the issues, and a lot of people started raising issues when it came to Training Season. I was like, okay, I'm starting to see some of the issues. I definitely think the Training Season was supposed to be the lead single, and the song. And one of the things that I was noticing I noticed it with Houdini. I thought it was just just a one and done. But I started noticing it with Training Season, and I also noticed it with Illusion. When they released the singles, Warner Music was doing the thing in which like you release a single, but it also comes with like the instrumental, sped up, slowed down, and then like an extended version. The extended version had a lot more like power, a lot more oomph. It was a lot more enjoyable. Now with Houdini, I did not like the extended version compared to the full length version. I actually preferred the original version of Houdini than the extended version. But with Training Season, I was kind of like, there's a lot more theatrics here. Like it has a lot more of what we come to expect from Dua Lipa and her music. So like, why wasn't this a part of the main version that we are hearing in like the music video, and like we're streaming regularly and we're hearing it on the radio? Then we get to Illusion. Illusion for me, that is the best single that we've gotten from the album, and I think it's one of the is up there for the album in terms of the track by track rankings, which I'll dig into later. But the song is fun. The song is, I think it's the closest thing on the album that we get to what the sound is for Radical Optimism, and I think that this should have been the lead single. I love the music video. I think the music video is cohesive with the theme. I know that shouldn't be a requirement for music videos. You don't have to really do that, but I think that the music video for Illusion was a lot more fun compared to, Houdini and Training Season. And yeah, it was just very consistent and very strong. With that one, I also really preferred the extended version of Illusion over the original version. And again, led me with the question of why is the extended version like better than the original version, and why is that not the main version that we're hearing? But those were the singles. The girls were kind of feeling it. Like Houdini seemed to be the highest performing one, and then Training Season didn't, and people were like, then the flop allegations started coming out, And then there was Illusion, which didn't really make any noise. But for me, and then we can dig into the live performances. The live performance for Houdini was okay. Training Season's live performances I really enjoyed, and had like it had like I think I'm blanking on which one of the performances I preferred, but she really was kind of blowing it out of the park with the performances, and I'm just kind of like, what does like one of the performances I was like, okay, Training Season kind of got it. Like this is going to be it. And I remember seeing one of the snippets online and being like, ooh, like she kind of is taking it with Training Season. And then future performances afterwards, I'm kind of like, the sound isn't matching the songs. The sound of the song isn't matching the performances, because the performances have a lot of theatrics. It's very, again, very dance focused. But again, these songs sound very like reserved and very muted, so it doesn't really warrant the performance, you know. And then everybody's like, "Oh, like no one's like Dua Lipa's in her flop era. Like, what are we gonna do?" Like, and people started bringing up the. For me, I think that the I don't know. I really don't know what's going on with the album really, because it seems like the there there was articles and stuff that were being posted that suggested that the album was going to be a lot different in sound and tone than what we ended up getting. And I for the life of me, I don't know what changed. Like I don't know if they and I don't know when they changed it. It's not like a situation like what I was discussing briefly in the Chloe and Halle solo music video, in which there is a very clear point in which you can tell that the shift for Chloe's sound and what Chloe's debut album was gonna look like with the pre and Pieces singles compared to what we started getting with In Pieces. It wasn't a clear sort of transition or jump off. With the singles, the only sort of indicator that Warner wasn't really pleased with how the marketing, or like that we start the moment that people started questioning the sound of the album, and if if there were changes to this album, was when we started seeing how Warner was pushing the songs. Houdini had a pretty strong push. Then Training Season kind of had a weird situation happen in which it was like they did performances of the song, sort of teasing the song live, doing live performances, again promoting the song. But it took fairly long before we got the song, and people were not feeling the music video. Um, and then with Illusion just kind of dropped. Like they just kind of announced it the week of, and we're just like, oh, we're dropping it, and it would be one thing if it was kind of a promotional single, like oh, like this is dropping the day of the album, but they just kind of were just like, oh, like we're dropping Illusion this week, and then they dropped it, and that was really kind of it. So the girls are kind of confused because usually Duo has like a rollout, and the other thing is like we also have the words of the heads of like Warner, because keep in mind I do remember an article coming out in which the head of Warner Music UK was talking about Dua Lipa, and he was saying that Warner wants Dua Lipa to be like a billion streamed like artist. Like they want her to be like the next big mainstream name in pop music. So when the head of Warner is saying that, but the rollout isn't really matching that, then it's kind of like, And it's not to say that the rollout didn't try, because Dua Lipa was still doing interviews. Dua Lipa was still kind of doing, like, she had her listening party. She was out, like, they were out having Dua do the things. So it's kind of like I feel like for the most part, even with like the questionability of the rollouts, They did try their best, and I think it just really kind of falls on the sound and how the audience was clicking for the sound, and the audience just wasn't clicking for the sound; it was clicking down. A lot of the girls were just like, "Oh, like this is not it." Like the girls just wasn't really feeling it. Houdini was a hit for the girls. Like people were feeling Houdini. People weren't feeling Training Season once we started getting more. I think once we started hearing more of the song, and then the music video came out, and then people just didn't really care about Illusion because again, like I feel like people weren't aware that it dropped. Then the album drops. There's I think there's also like leaks. People were saying like I don't know if they were real or not, but I was seeing people post about um, the album being available in different countries ahead of time, like physical copies of the album being available ahead of time. So I don't know if the album leaked either. Um, but and there was also a lot of setups. Like I remember a tweet that got like came out that was deleted, in which they were saying like, "Oh, so and so from Forbes said that radical optimism is like the British lemonade." Oh, that's not like it's again like it feels like they're setting the album up for failure in different ways, and I don't know why that was the case, but it just seemed like this was the album. This was just a roller that wasn't gonna work in the favor of the album, which sucks again because like I feel like it's a good album. The girls were saying it's boring. I think it's just because they weren't clicking for the sound. Again, I feel like the sound is very similar to what we got with like Dance the Night, but again, the issue is just like they were very muted. There isn't theatrics, and the songs were too short. And when listening to the album, the songs are fairly consistent. I think once you get past the like two main singles, so Training Season is consistent, but I feel like Houdini's a little bit out of place. But once you get past Houdini, well, taking out Houdini, everything else on the album feels very consistent in sounding what it's trying to talk about. It's talking about relationships. It's talking about, you know, dating people who are not putting out, as much as you're putting in, and all that jazz. And a lot of the sort of deeper things that Dua is trying to communicate with different tracks in there too. And I'm just gonna dig deep into that with the track by track. Again, like I felt like the songs were very consistent, and I feel like at the worst, the songs were like 5.5 out of 10 at worst, but the songs were usually just kind of very consistent, like sevens out of 10s. Like they were very consistent. Just some of them were either too like a lot of the songs were just too short, and they missed the gravitas of like what you would come to expect, that like extra punch that you would expect from a Dua Lipa song before this rollout. So here's my ranking. Number one, I have French Exit. French Exit is like a really cute song, and it just does it for me like every time. Like this is a really good like radical optimism track off of here. Like it's like I just love it. I love the part where she's just like, ooh. I love the part where she's like talking about French accent. She just dips into speaking French, and then I also like the part where she's like, slow dancing and romance. Like I'm trying to note Cake, but like, yeah, it's like I love that sort of the moments in that song. Like it has a lot of funk. It feels very fitting with the album and what it's trying to say. I think it's a good track, and I'm giving it number one. Number two is going to What You Doing. That was a really fun track, and um, I think it's very punchy. I think it's one of the songs with. I think that and French Exit are the kind of two main songs that have the most like weight to them and most like gravitas to them, in my opinion. Like it feels like, oh, like these are the songs that Dua probably love the most, with the exception of maybe like Maria, and I would say probably Maria is probably her favorite track, which I'll talk later down the line. Number three goes to Anything for Love. Anything for Love would have been my number one pick if it wasn't so short. Like it is like 2 minutes and 20 something seconds, and that's just not enough because there's like a really long and like there's an intro to the song, and it's like cute because it's like, oh, like they're kind of talking, they're like it's kind of like Dua is performing the song essentially with like her friends and stuff. It's a very intimate experience and kind of fits with some of the promotion that she did for this album, especially when she like revealed the name of the album, um, in like the sort of trailer announcing it. um, and I like really love this song. Like when I go and re-listen to this album, this is one of the songs that like I love going back to and just re-listening to because it is really good. And I feel like this would have been like this is that anything for love is like the radical optimism track for me. But again, like I would have given it number one if it wasn't so short. Like it is too short, and I think that's the pitfalls. So that's why I gave it number three. And number four goes to These Walls. Don't really have too much to say on that one. Again, it's very like good. It's very consistent. Like this it's gonna be a recurring thing. I feel like the songs were really consistent, really good. But I love the track. Number five goes to Illusion. As I touched on before, that's my favorite track out of the three singles. I think it's really fun. I think it's a good song to hear, in which like I think it's very much like a gay club song, for better or for worse. And I also feel like it's a cute little gym song. Like this would be something to like stretch it out too. And again, I feel like it's one of the most like one of the more cohesive singles that we had in regards to this album. It like connects to the album fairly well, and again, very fun, very punchy. Again, it's number. The only reason it's number five off the track is because I feel like the other four tracks are better. And two, the original cut of the track that is on the album that was also for the single is not as strong as the extended version. Like there's just no gravitas or like much theatrics with the original cut that we got. Number six is End of an Era. I kind of bounce between Illusion and End of the Era being like five and six. I think they're kind of very close. But End of an Era is a really good. It's a fun intro, song for the album, and I think I think it's just a really fun track. The only reason why I have it at number six, or bouncing between five and six, because I would say it's tied between that and Illusion, is it's very consistent to the album, but again like it feels very muted. It feels very like this is missing something. Like that just seems to be the thing with a lot of the tracks on the album. Like it's like, oh, it's good, but like there's something missing here, and you can hear that there's something missing here, and can't really explain why it's missing, but it's missing. Number seven goes to Maria. I understand the track, and I know that this is probably going to be the track. This is probably going to be the hot take track for me. Like I know like a lot of people who I've seen and talked to who have listened to this album really love the Maria track, and they like. And I think when I talked about earlier about how people were how that one person was trying to compare it to like the British Lemonade. So I remember some people jokingly being like, "Oh, like when you listen to Maria, like this is kind of fitting. Like you kind of see it." I think it just didn't work for me. Like it's, and I don't mean that as in like the song is bad. And when again like ranking the tracks, like I don't think that any of these songs that I'm ranking are bad per se, but like that I personally enjoy the song. I I did, but I don't know if I would go back and re-listen to Maria as often as I would the previous tracks. Number eight is goes to Falling Forever. I think it's a fun track. I think the only reason it's number eight is because I don't like some of the runs that Duo's doing. She's like, ah! Like I think that's a little bit much for me, and that's okay. Um, can't really say too much about it. Again, like it's a fairly consistent track. No major complaints with it outside of the runs, and that's just a personal thing with me. The rest of the track is completely like enjoyable. And the runs don't really like I personally can't take it seriously, but like it's still a good track. Again, nine goes to Houdini. Again, second favorite track, the second favorite single. But I think compared to, and I would say it's tied with Training Season. Houdini and Training Season. You know what? No, I'm gonna flip Training Season to nine, and I'm gonna move Houdini to 10, because I think with Training Season, It fits with the album. It matches what the album's trying to tell us and what story it's trying to tell us. But compared to the other tracks, I think that I enjoyed those more. And in terms of the singles, I think Standalone, I think Illusion just takes it universally, and I think Houdini is a stronger song standalone. And then there's Training Season, and again, it's not like saying, I'm not saying the Training Season's a bad song, but I'm just saying listening to them separately, it's like, okay, there's a hierarchy here. But when it comes to listening to it on the album, listening to the album in order in its whole cohesiveness, I would say Training Season's number 9, because I think that, again, it fits. The issue where I keep bouncing between Houdini and Training Season for number 9, and why I'm moving Houdini down to number 10, is because, again, good track, fun track, especially standalone. But I it does not fit on the album for me. So I don't, and it's one of the few songs on there in which it's like, maybe she most definitely kind of changed the vision of the album here, because it's just kind of there. Like, if and that and like the music video and stuff like that, like it seems like she was trying to go for a completely different vision, and this is like one of the few remnants of that vision that you can pinpoint. And then everything else is just fairly cohesive to the radical optimism vision and vibes. Number 11 goes to Happy For You. Like, I wasn't feeling it, and I think it was just kind of like it's, I feel, it's no shade, like, even though, again, I said like there's no like bad songs, but it's the most boring track on the album, and which sucks because it's the last track. And again, even though I said that there isn't like a bad song on here, that was probably the 5.5. Like, that's kind of like the I know this, like, I'm like, I know this is the last song, but I, it's just kind of there. Like, it doesn't really do too much for me. But that is my ranking of the album. Again, at its worst, like, the worst track is like 5.5, and it's just kind of like, it doesn't really speak to my heart. It's just a little boring. And at its best, the songs are very like cohesive, fun, but too short and almost too consistent. Like, not even too consistent, because it's one thing to be consistent, but the sound just isn't really hitting. Like, it feels like very muted and very kind of, it's confusing. Like, I know a lot, like, the girls are confused as to why the sound sounds like this. But I mean, when we dig into the performance, clearly the girls aren't really feeling it because the numbers are lagging. I think that I would question if Dua is in her like flop era. I feel like the girls are gonna say that she is, and I think that I definitely could see people like turning around on this album and growing into it as like time goes on. I definitely see, like, once we get to like the next album for Dua after this album, I could see it being like, I could see the girls starting to turn into like radical optimism, like defenders, and being like, oh, like, y'all wasn't here when Dua dropped this album, like I was. That might be my ass, but it's fine. It's very consistent. I think that it's very consistent for Dua's sound, and she like has solidified what her sound is. But again, the biggest issues with the album is just that it feels very muted. Like, there's not as much theatrics and not much gravitas to the songs, and the songs are too damn short. But those are my thoughts on all of that. I think Dua's gonna be fine. I mean, as I touched on in the Chloe and Halle solo music episode, every artist is bound to have their flop era at some point in time. This might be Dua's. I'm gonna wait and see before I give that to her. Like, everyone else is quick to, when everybody else is quick to give that flop title to her, I'm gonna wait and hold off and see, how things look after this and how the rest of the rollout looks like before I give that to her. But 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube what your thoughts on the album were, and how you would rank the tracks. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or your favorite podcast platform, use the Q&A feature to let me know. But yeah, this has been the Cake Radio podcast. Well, the Cake Radio show by CakeDive. This is a CakeDive ZCN Studios production. And if you're, again, watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, like the video, comment. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to follow and give us a good rating. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.